This is the beginner's guide to how to freeze dry fruit for your home or your freeze drying business. We're going to cover a lot of different topics, the top 5 freeze dried fruits that have sold the most for me, as well as the tools that I've purchased that have made the preparation side very easy and smooth for the freeze drying process. We're going to cover some of the equipment that I've bought, as well as the freeze dryer settings that you're going to need for every single fruit that you freeze dry. And stay tuned to the end of this video because I'm going to share with you the packaging methods that you should use once the freeze dried fruit is all done. Hey, welcome back to the Freeze Dried Business channel. If you're new here, my name is David and I run a freeze dried business in Idaho. I've been running it for the past 4 years and I've learned a lot of different things, from the cottage food side, running it out of my home, to also having a commercial kitchen where I have wholesale and have learned a lot of different things in the food processing methods. So hit the subscribe bell if you want to follow me and follow more content related to freeze drying, and specifically freeze drying as a business. This is a huge, fun world of freeze drying, and I think it's only going to grow even more. So the more and more subscribers and community that we build here will benefit you all. Now in today's video, we're primarily going to cover what types of fruits I've seen successful in my freeze drying business, and then some of the tools of best ways to kind of cut and prepare them, and then the freeze dryer setting. Now the freeze dryer's purpose is to extract the water from fruit, but it's the purest form of keeping nutritional value in a food preservation method. That's why the freeze drying industry is blowing up so much, is because it's a great way to preserve your food. And since the water is removed and then the fruit is dried at a high temperature, now you're left with a way for you to crush the fruit flavor into a powder. And that's why with the baking side of things, now you can create a very flavorful type of cookie, a flavorful cake, or things like that that doesn't have that moist type of juice in it from the different fruits. So that's why the application is very high with freeze-dried fruit. Now, over the past 4 years of running my freeze-drying business as of this video, I've found that there's been 6 different types of fruits that have been the best sellers for me, and I've tried different fruits, but it really doesn't have the same take as these. Now the first one is blueberries. I've got a video on how to freeze dry blueberries, but we're gonna do 1 tray of that today. I've also found that strawberries have been a big seller. I also would suggest you doing bananas, and I also combine that to do a strawberry banana mix. I've also had success with freeze drying apples, as well as pineapple and raspberries. Now we're just gonna do apples, strawberries, and blueberries today just to keep it easy and simple. Now those are the 6 top freeze-dried fruits that I've been selling in my freeze-drying business, and I would suggest you try as well. And then as you start finding what your customers like, you can then pinpoint what you want to go for the most in terms of looking at having that as more of a consistent product to have. Now let's go over the tools that make these 3 fruits really easy to prepare. Now the blueberries, I've got this roller berry. Now this tool is something that I invested in. It's quite expensive relative to other methods that you can use, but this is the roller berry. It's a stainless steel rotating, spinning type of poking tool. And what it does is it's gonna poke the skin of the blueberries. And the reason you wanna do that is because the skin of the blueberry keeps that water inside. And so if you just put blueberries as is on the tray, it actually will explode. And I'm showing you a picture right now of what those blueberries that are exploded look like. So if you want them to look presentable and not exploding, I would suggest you find a method to be able to poke these blueberries. Now I've done it individually with a little skewer little needle, which took a long time. You can also use a meat tenderizer, but this has just been always sturdy for me, and you don't have to buy a bunch of them. They don't break down. But if you want to go the cheaper route, I've got a video link in the description below of the meat tenderizers, as well as the link to Frozen Right, who makes this roller berry. And this is a really easy tool that I'll show you how to use. For the strawberries, we want to use this egg slicer. That's right, it's an egg slicer. And you're gonna put the strawberries in here, and then you just snap it shut, and then it cuts it into 4 to 5 different slices. Now the reason you wanna use a slicer like this is because it actually can shorten the amount of time for the freeze drying process. Because the thinner the slice, the shorter amount of time the freeze dryer is gonna take to actually get to the last molecule of moisture in the strawberries. And that's why I like slicing the strawberries as well. Now with the apples, what I use is this big hunkin' tool. And the reason I've used this is because it's actually a potato fry slicer. And I like the fry type of look because it, I don't know, it just looks more snacky, if that's even a word. And I like using it because it's also very fast and effective. So that's what I like using. I also have used the KitchenAid apple slicer as well as just cut it up by hand. But we're gonna use this today. And this you can find in the video description. It's a potato fry slicer. Now you're also gonna want a great sharp knife, something that doesn't dull too fast. And I've used these Cutco types of knives, and it's been a good investment because it never goes dull and I don't have to sharpen it that much. Now in my sink here to my left, I've got a strainer so that way I can wash off all the fruit prior to preserving this. Now, if you're in a commercial kitchen or you're preparing fruit for your customers, you want to make sure that you have some gloves, or you at least want to wash your hands in between handling different types of fruits. Because I'm in my kitchen right now in my home, I'm just going to not wear gloves, and it'll be a little bit messy, but it's perfectly fine just because we're going to do this video. These grates I bought off of Frozen Right as well, who makes the roller berry. These allow for some airflow when the drying process is kicked on into the freeze dryer. They make these for the Stay Fresh as well as for the Harvest Right freeze dryer trays from different sizes. Now I have the Harvest Right large freeze dryer, and so these grates are for the large size trays and they fit perfectly inside the tray like this. What I also like is these grates can easily be lifted out of the tray, and then the fruit stays on top, and then you can just dump it into your food safe bucket. Now, if you don't own a freeze dryer, you can always go to my affiliate link down below in the video description. I own Harvest Right as well as Stay Fresh freeze dryers. Both are great. I would suggest the Harvest Right freeze dryer for starting a freeze drying business. They have the largest freeze dryers right now for most affordable price for the highest capacity. For example, they have the XL freeze dryer that can do upwards of 40 pounds of food in one cycle. One cycle meaning you've got them all full of fruit. And so that's really nice compared to the large size, which can do upwards of, 16 pounds. So it's over 2 times the amount of food that you can do just in one cycle. And that really increases your bottom line in your freeze drying business because you want that freeze dryer running nonstop, but also getting the most production out of it once you press start on that machine. So that's what I would suggest. And if you want to know more about freeze dryers, go ahead and click the link below in the video description, and it'll tell you more about different reviews that I've made, as well as you can check out the website directly. Let's get started with the blueberries first. This container is 11 ounces of blueberries. I put 2 in my strainer, washed them all, and that's what we're going to put on the tray. Now, you have to keep in mind when freeze drying is if you want to put as much capacity on a freeze drying tray as you want, that's perfectly fine, but just know that it's going to take a lot longer for the freeze dryer and its process and its sensors to realize when it's all completely done. So you could be looking at a very long dry time. Now today I've got a cutting board, but typically what I have is one of the Harvest Right silicone mats that you put in your tray. They make them for all different size freeze dryer trays. Now what that silicone mat allows you to do is just not have such of a hard surface when you're rolling using the roller berry or you're using your meat tenderizer. I just like having a more soft cushion on there. So we're going to take the blueberries out of the strainer, and what I'm going to show you here is you just kind of line it up to the width of this roller berry tool. And I've just found that this just makes things a lot easier. So you roll across, and as you saw there, it rolled and poked the blueberries. Now each blueberry has kind of like multiple different pokes, so we put all those blueberries on the tray. Now the video footage I'm showing right now is not me right now. It's actually of my other video on specifically how to freeze dry blueberries, which you can take a look at in the video description, or after this video I'll show it up in the thumbnails. Because this actually shows you a detailed look at how to use this roller berry tool, how quickly and efficient you can do it. And now that we're done here, 22 ounces roughly of blueberries this is a great amount because we don't have any doubling up of volume on the tray. So it's gonna actually reduce our freeze drying time. Now that we're done with this, what I'm gonna show you is these tray stackers. And if you don't own tray stackers, they literally fit right on the edges of these trays. A lot of people make these, but I like buying from US made only. So I've got a link to the video description below of freezedryingsupplies.com, as well as links to Amazon with Sofo Survival, who makes these in America, and they're 3D printed, but they fit perfectly. And I've got a bunch of these so that I can quickly prep. And speaking of preparation, when you have a large amount of fruit that you're getting ready to prepare because maybe you got a good deal on it, you want to use that time effectively. And so using these tray stackers, you're gonna do a ton of blueberries or a ton of strawberries when they're in season, and that way you can put these in your freezer. And the reason you're gonna pre-freeze is because it reduces the amount of time that you're having to prepare every single time you wanna put something into the freeze dryer. So if I've got 10 trays worth, which is 2 cycles worth of freeze drying, now I can prepare 10 trays worth of fruit. I'm putting it into the freezer, then it's all frozen. I take out 5, put them into the freeze dryer, my large freeze dryer, and then when that's done, I've already got some already prepped and in the freezer that I can just put them in again. So it makes it just more of an easier process. And that's the thing to know as a beginner, is you want to make things easy for yourself. And especially when you get into the seasonal side of purchasing fruit, you want to maximize the amount of fruit that you're going to buy and therefore prep it all at one time. Now that we're done with the blueberries, let's move on to strawberries. For the strawberries, the tools you need is obviously a knife to cut off the stems. And then if you're gonna slice them, you're gonna use this egg slicer. And I've got a link in the video description below to Amazon. It's not more than $10 to $12 for one of these. Now, I have in my strainer that I've washed, you wanna make sure you wash strawberries really well because of all those pesticides that can really soak in where the seeds are. I bought 2 pounds. This is 2 pounds of strawberries, 1 pound from the container. And that's about how much strawberries I'm gonna put on the tray that's sliced. Again, I've got a grate now in this tray, and as you can see, here's my blueberries underneath, and then I've got the tray stackers, and it sets right on top of here. It's very easy. So we're gonna cut the stems off of the strawberries, and what I do is I put the strawberries right there that have the stems off, and I put the stems in here. What we're gonna do with the stems is we're going to freeze dry them as well on another tray. And reason being is because there's a lot of value in the healthiness of the strawberry stems. I typically have always thrown away the stems, but I've been reading a lot more about the healthiness of the stems, and I'm going to put up a little bit of information about the healthiness of the strawberries right now so that you can see why you should probably keep the stems and freeze dry them, the leaves. There's a lot of value in that, and when you're freeze drying, the whole point is to preserve food and not have anything go to waste. So that's what we're going to do, is we're going to put the stems on one tray as its own and have the sliced strawberries right here. Now, typically on a large tray that I have for this Harvest Right freeze dryer, I really only put about 2 pounds of strawberries on the tray that are sliced, because anything else would be kind of an overload. Okay, so now that we got those sliced, let's go ahead and grab our egg slicer. We're just putting it right on the grooves where the slicer are, and then we're pressing down, and it's cutting. Sometimes it sticks like this, but it's cutting them into the perfect slices. The thinner the slice, the more it's going to allow those freeze dryer sensors to notice that there's less water molecules in it for it to get it completely dry. Because if you left it full, which I've seen people do, that's perfectly fine, but think about how long it's going to take for the sensors to sense that there's no moisture inside the very core of this in the middle. It's just going to take a lot longer. So I like to keep things simple, and also it just makes a better snack when you're selling it in your freeze dryer bags. As you can see here, this is 2 pounds of strawberries all cut up. All right, so as you can see, we're gonna put more tray stackers, 4 to a tray, and now we can put another tray on top for our apples that we'll do next. All right, moving on to apples. Now, again, you can choose to slice up apples any way you want to. What I've chosen to use is a potato slicer. This is a really sturdy potato slicer. It has suction cups that can attach to your counter no matter where you are, and then you're simply gonna put the apple into the little slider area right here, and when this slides through, you can put the tray right below it, and when you press forward, it slices it perfectly into these apple slices. And now what you're seeing me do here is I'm just removing the kind of the core pieces, just because, at least for me, I don't really like the core pieces when I eat an apple, but I'm gonna take those out so that the seeds and the core part doesn't get freeze dried, because again, I'm selling this to customers. I'm not doing it for my own use. Customers are going to be different than what you're going to use freeze dried fruit for, right? So you want something that's going to be presentable, that looks nice, and it's not just something that you know came out of your own home, right? You want something to look presentable. All right, so now we're done with slicing up the apples. That was really quick. Now this is 5 gala apples on 1 tray. This is a perfect amount. Now, so that these don't brown up too much, I immediately put them in the freezer. If you want, you could maybe sprinkle over some lemon juice or something like that. That's what I've seen do it, but I just don't like the taste or kind of the smell of it. So what I do is I just quickly actually put these in the freezer. 3 different fruits all stacked together. And this is why you use the tray stackers. And then we're gonna put 2 more trays worth of fruit on top of here. And that is how you prepare apples, strawberries, and blueberries. Now let's get to the packaging and the freeze dryer settings. If you're liking the content, you're liking freeze drying fruit, hit the like button right now. This is really gonna help the video come up more in YouTube and on Google for future people who are looking to freeze dry fruit. I'd really appreciate it. And once again, hit the subscribe bell if you're not a subscriber already. I'd love for you to join the freeze drying business community. Now, once you're done with pre-freezing your fruit, or if you just wanna pop it in right away, you're gonna make sure that the freeze dryer is at 125 degrees Fahrenheit for freeze drying the fruit. Now, what you do wanna customize is the final dry time, and I would set that at a minimum of 6 hours. That just gives you more peace of mind that it's drying at a high temperature and getting all that water out. Now, typically people ask, what's the typical time frame for how long it's gonna take for freeze-dried fruit? That's all gonna vary on how much fruit and product you're putting on the tray. But generally, if I'm gonna do all 5 trays of my large Harvest Right freeze dryer with 2 pounds of strawberries to start with, that's 10 pounds total of freeze-dried strawberries. And that 10 pounds is typically gonna take about 36 to 40 hours to freeze dry completely. Now let's talk about the packaging size. So once you have the freeze-dried fruit done, you're gonna take it out and put it in some food grade type buckets. And I've got some information below about those buckets, and I also did a short about what type of buckets I use. Now again, go to the video description below and you'll check out the 8 commonly most asked questions about packaging, and that's where I share what type of buckets I use. Now the 3 things that are gonna impact your freeze-dried fruit from going bad or soft is sunlight, moisture, and oxygen. And so it should be dry, so you don't have to worry about the moisture unless you're in a high humidity area, and that's when you'd want to be careful about where you're storing the freeze-dried fruit. But let's just talk about the other 2 factors, sunlight and oxygen. So with sunlight, if you're using bags like I have with my freeze drying business, this has a window on it. So if it's gonna be exposed to any type of sunlight, that is gonna impact the color of the freeze-dried fruit over time, as well as it's gonna impact the freshness of it as well. I typically try to get these sold within about 3 to 4 months using these craft bags. And I've got a link in the video description where I get these bags off of Amazon, but if you're gonna use something else that has windows, just remember the sunlight is gonna impact that. Now the third factor is the oxygen side, and that's when you're gonna wanna use oxygen absorbers to put into the bag. Now, there's a lot of different debate and information about what type of size oxygen absorbers you should have, but generally you wanna go with probably a 300 cc oxygen absorber. And one video I love that talks about this is on the Live Life Simple YouTube. He's got a great video that I'm going to link in the video description that talks specifically about oxygen absorbers, and he goes through all the science as well as what type of sizes to use and all that type of thing. So I'm not going to go through that, but you would want to use an oxygen absorber for your freeze-dried fruit, no matter whether you have a Mylar bag that doesn't have a window or one that does, okay? Hey, welcome to the Freeze Dry Business channel. My name is David. If you're running a freeze dry business, or you're looking at starting one, or you're even just interested in what freeze drying is all about, this channel and this video is for you, because I'm gonna show you one of my top tools that I use for cutting fruit, specifically bananas. I'm gonna freeze dry the bananas, I'm gonna use the tool, and this tool is gonna save you time and money. It's very affordable, it's very easy to use, and it's saved me an immense amount of time prepping bananas. So let's get started with this video and I'll share with you all about it. Hey, welcome back to another video on the Freeze Dried Business channel. My name is David and I run a freeze dried business in Idaho. I started this channel because I wanted to document in video form ways to help a freeze-dried business, whether it's beginning or whether it's been going on for a long time and it can continue to grow. And because when I started my freeze-dried business in 2020, I didn't have any of that video helpful tools and tips available. So this is why I started that channel. So if this is something that you're interested in, welcome. Now in this video, we're gonna do a couple things. I'm gonna show you how to freeze-dry bananas using a tool to slice all of the bananas very quickly. It's a tool that I found off of Amazon, and it's very affordable, it's very easy to use. What I like about this tool is that it slices the bananas in the same depth on every single slice. So you have kind of the same type of slice on your trays, as well as available for you to sell to your customers. Now, if you're not familiar with the health benefits of bananas, let me just give you a couple highlights as to why I freeze dry bananas. Now, bananas are very high in potassium, which we all very much know about, right? But the potassium is actually really good for our heart as well as our blood pressure. Now, also bananas are very good for energy without having the fats and the cholesterol in it. Also, bananas help with indigestion issues as well. 3 very good values for bringing bananas to your customers as a healthy alternative in your business. Now, hey, if you're already getting excited about this video and me sharing this tool, go ahead and hit the like button on this video. I'd appreciate it. All right, let's go ahead and get started on looking at the bananas and this tool. Alright, so what is this great tool that slices bananas and is super fast, easy to use, and affordable? It's the Fire Kiln Banana Slicer. Now, I bought this off of Amazon. It's only $10, and basically you can use your hand, very easy, it doesn't take very much strength. You're going to put the banana right through this hole and then slice, and there's basically about 6 different types of slice marks or slice areas for the banana to slice through. So what I really like about this tool is that basically every single slice of the banana is the same amount thickness. So you don't have one that's too thick, not ones that too thin. And that's what I really like about this tool, and it's only 10 bucks. So if you're interested in buying this after seeing this, go ahead and go into the video description and use my affiliate link, which I have this directly to Amazon. Now, what we're gonna do next is I'm going to peel all of these bananas. I'm gonna slice them using the banana slicer. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm going to put them all on trays with freezer paper, and I'm gonna put them into the freezer to pre-freeze so I can get them into the freeze dryer later. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with prepping these bananas. Now, I like to wear food safe gloves, these rubber gloves, and that's just because there's just a lot of stickiness and stuff that is on the bananas once you open them up. So I just don't like having that as I'm trying to do this as quickly as possible. Now, really, this is the simplest type of fruit you're gonna find outside of even maybe blueberries or raspberries, things like that you can just throw on the tray. But with bananas, what I really like is that you don't have to kind of wash it, right? So all we're gonna do is we're gonna peel the banana, and then we're gonna put 4 on here, and then we'll see if we need to put even any more bananas on there. So I'm gonna peel these first. I left that, which that wasn't intentional, but yeah, bananas are really great. Now, you can use bananas. I do a strawberries, freeze-dried strawberries and bananas mix, which I started doing this year, and it's really caught on. My wholesale customers really like it. I also really find that people are liking it on my website, things like that. All right, so I've got the 4 bananas. Now, this is how slick it is, and I'm gonna zoom in so you can see. But basically, you can slice it, and it slices directly onto this freezer paper. Now, this is Reynolds freezer paper, and again, I have the blades going up, so that way the bananas fall down onto the paper like this. And really, all you're gonna do is, I'm gonna zoom in like this, because here's the bananas, right? And I just put it so that it creates an even amount, and I'm just going right to the end, and I've got this banana already sliced. It's all the same thickness, which I really like. Now, when you're pre-freezing the bananas, what I found is if you don't mind having clumps of the bananas, then you don't have to worry about this. But sometimes I like just having the individual pieces of bananas in my bags after they're done freeze drying. And once these are frozen, then it's much easier for once they start freeze drying, they're not gonna stick together as much. And I like the individual pieces, because when they're in clumps, just presentation wise, and maybe just think of yourself as a consumer, you may not want to have 6 bananas at once. You just kind of want to have them as snack bites. So that's why I kind of like arranging them like this. It's a little bit more tedious, and I know I do really stress efficiency with having a freeze-dried business, because you know, you want to be really quick at time is money, right? So I'm just arranging these, as you can see, in a line. That way when they freeze, they're not freezing together or anything. And as you can see, this is probably actually going to be the perfect amount. And again, look how quick this is, this tool. $10. All right, one more banana. Let's go ahead and get this sliced. All right, so this is the fourth banana that I sliced, and as you can see, I'm just trying to arrange it so that there's just not too much layers on top of it. I'm not going to do this for everyone. Normally what I do with these bananas is I'll probably have a couple of trays worth of all of them kind of single file, and they're not layered up like this, and that way I just kind of have a good mixture. Versus if I have a lot of bananas that I'm doing, then I'm just going to layer them up, and that way I just get the most on a tray to be able to then put it in the freezer. So that's how quick this tray is. Let's do one more tray and I'll show you again how quick it is, but I'm going to do it in my own speed so you can see how quickly one tray can get done. All right, so I'm going to set a timer on my phone. We're going to see how fast we can get these bananas done, because I just love seeing how fast you can get it done when you're using a tool like this. So I'm going to basically go from peeling to then slicing, and then once I feel like I'm done with all of it, I'll press stop on the stopwatch. On your mark, get set. All right, let's go, David. Stop. All right, how fast did we do that at? My hands are really gross with banana stuff, but 1 minute and almost 7 seconds. 1 minute and 7 seconds. That is awesome. How many trays of bananas can you do? Well, if you're gonna do 5 trays worth and you're gonna do 5 bananas on each tray, well, that's only 5 minutes of prep work. That's not bad. Hey, if you like how fast I did those bananas, give it a thumbs up on this video. I'd appreciate it. All right, it's the next day. The bananas are all frozen into the freezer, but we need to get the freeze dryer set up. So I'm gonna just let you know that when I set up the freeze dryer for fruit, I typically just stick with the factory settings, which is 125 degrees. I do customize the final dry time just based on kind of what the time of the season is. Now, if it's really hot and humid and summertime like it is here in Idaho, definitely make sure that it's drying appropriately. And so in the winter time, man, the machine just does really well, and I really don't have to worry about that. So what I'm gonna set it to is an extra final dry time of 6 hours. And I'm gonna press save. And so that's what the freeze dryer is at, is 125 degrees. And so now we gotta wait 15 minutes for it to cool down. I do wait until the temperature gets to around 45 degrees before putting it into the freeze dryer, because it is gonna get down to that 30 degrees, but that way there's not too much time in between me taking out the freezer and any type of dethaw or anything. And that way it's at 45 degrees, and then it just has a little bit more to go to under 32. Now, once the freeze dryer gets to that 45 degrees or less, I'm gonna take the frozen bananas, move them over to my working tray area that's right below me, and I'll put the frozen bananas onto the Harvest Right trays, put them into the freeze dryer, close the drain valve, and then we'll start the cycle. I'm expecting that the bananas are gonna take probably between 36 to 42 hours. That's typically what this machine takes in terms of the length of time to dry. Now, it might take longer than that just based on the final dry time. And once the cycle's done, I'll show you what the freeze-dried bananas look like, what they taste like, and then I'll have some closing remarks on bananas. Now, before I leave, hey, hit that like button on this video if you like the content so far. Also, take a look at my other videos if you haven't already. We'll see you after the cycle gets done. All right, the freeze-dried cycle is done. The bananas are done. It ran for about 38 hours. So I'm gonna get these freeze-dried bananas out of the freeze dryer, and then we're gonna see what it looks like as the end result for you. All right, so this is what a freeze-dried banana looks like. It actually retains the same amount of shape and everything. Now I'm gonna put the camera so you can kind of see what the freeze-dried bananas look like. So this is one of the trays of the freeze-dried bananas. So as you can see, and you can hear, that they just are super kind of just crunchy. Now when you break them apart, they just snap off and they're super crunchy, have a lot of flavor, definitely some banana aftertaste, but these are great to put in for strawberries, like a strawberry banana mix. Also just great for snacking. My kids love them. So I think marketing them as just really good healthy snacks. Like I said, they're high in potassium, great for your heart, great for indigestion issues, things like that. So these freeze-dried bananas are great. Took about 38 hours. All right, just to recap on freeze-drying bananas. Now the settings for your freeze dryer is just the factory settings. I set it at 125 degrees. I did add final dry time to about 6 hours, 5 or 6 hours or so. You don't have to do that much, but I always just kind of add more final dry time just to be safe, to make sure it's completely dry. And it ran for about 38 hours, and we did about 12 to 13 pounds of bananas. Now I use that fire kiln banana slicer. You can get it off of Amazon for 10 bucks. It's really cheap. The link to that on Amazon is in the video description. Hey, thanks a lot for joining me. If you can do one thing after watching this, is hit the like button on this video. I'd really appreciate it. It helps me just kind of gauge to see whether people are liking the content that I'm putting out there, as well as hit the subscribe button. That'll get more and more of my videos into your feed for YouTube, as well as notifying you when I put out a new video. You'll see that new video right and directly in your feed, so you can take it all in. Hey, have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you again next time on the Freeze Dried Business Channel. Go out and make a difference in your community. Cheers. Hey, if you've got a freeze dryer like the one behind me and you're trying to freeze dry blueberries but you just can't get the drying process correctly and they all come out inconsistent, you're gonna love this video, because I've got a tool that's gonna save you time and money by poking the skin of the blueberry. It's fantastic, and I'm gonna show you what it's all about in this video. Hi, I'm David, and I'm a freeze-dried business owner in Idaho. If you are an owner of a freeze-dried business or you're trying to start one, this channel is for you. I started this channel because I just couldn't find any visual video representation of what it's like to freeze-dry as a business, or to find just videos about how to do different things that can help you in a freeze-dried business. So I started this channel, and all the videos that I'm producing is to help you wherever you're at in your business. In today's video, we're gonna freeze-dry blueberries, and I'm gonna show you how to use a tool that's really helped me be efficient with doing blueberries. One of the most frustrating fruits for me starting out was the blueberry. And the reason being is because I used to just throw the blueberries right on the tray, and I didn't realize that you needed to poke the skin of the blueberry and any other types of fruits that have a skin, because as you know, the freeze dryer is removing the moisture from any type of item. So with the blueberry, the skin preserves that kind of like compactness water activity in there, and so if it just dries it, it doesn't have a way to release the water, and then you get exploding blueberries that are dried, and it just either falls apart and crumbles, or it becomes still chewy and it doesn't dry completely. That's the inconsistencies that I found. So I started poking blueberries with an individual metal skewer, and I started just poking each individual one on the trays. It took a really long time, and it just wasn't efficient. Now I purchased the roller berry, and this is by the company Frozen Right. The company manufactures a stainless steel roller berry. Now the tool has metal spokes that rotate, and then right here is where all the blueberries catch once you roll it, and it falls right back on the tray. Now the roller berry tool, and then this case that comes with styrofoam in it to keep the stainless steel tool intact, that's gonna run you about $190. If you just want the roller berry, it's gonna run you $160. Now it pays for itself. I love this tool. I'm definitely an ambassador of this tool because it saved me a lot of time and money. All right, first things is we need to wash the blueberries. Now if you're not familiar with washing methods, I did look up on the USDA, and you really don't have to wash fruit in any specific way. You just need to run it over cold water, and I usually run it for about a minute or so. So what I use is a strainer like this, and then I'm just going to use running water and then cold water, and then I use the sprayer to rinse over the blueberries. And then what I do is I usually just take my hands and I kind of turn over the blueberries a little bit so that we get the ones that were at the bottom. Anytime you're freeze drying fruit, you should definitely be washing the fruit beforehand. So again, I'm just making sure I'm getting all of any type of dirt or bacteria that came off the blueberries from the store off of there, so that's probably good. All right, we're gonna use the roller barrier. I'm gonna show you how quickly it is to poke blueberries. I've got the blueberries all washed, and what we're gonna do is we just kind of line up the blueberries using the silicone mat from the Harvest Right trays, and we simply put the roller berry on the end. We kind of tilt up like this, and then we roll, and look, every single one of these blueberries just got poked, which is brilliant. So then we can just toss those in here onto the other tray and get more blueberries. I've got one harvest tray over here, and then I've got this one with the silicone mat. And this was about 3 pounds of blueberries that I washed. And I usually do about 3 pounds on one tray of blueberries. I haven't noticed any really bad consistencies with putting 3 pounds versus putting 2 pounds of blueberries. Again, you just kind of lift up and you roll it all across. This is super efficient to get these blueberries skins all poked. So blueberries are very popular for me because they're kind of just very snacky. They're small, they taste like the blueberries, and they're crunchy. I find that people really buy these because, one, if you like blueberries, you're gonna like these. Like I said, they're crunchy. People like crunchiness. They like having pretzels. They like having, corn chips and things like that, and corn nuts. Blueberries kind of provide that crunchiness, and it's awesome. And then it's freeze dried, so it's preserved. Freeze dried blueberries provides that stability for fresh produce. So I just did 3 pounds of blueberries. This whole tray right here, 3 pounds of blueberries. This took only about 5 minutes using the roller berry, all poked and everything. All right, I'm gonna set a timer for how long it takes me to do 2 pounds of blueberries so you can see. Let's go ahead and press start, and let's do the roller berry. Okay, 2 minutes and 14 seconds to do 2 pounds of blueberries, all poked and all. Awesome. All right, I just washed 2 pounds of blueberries, and I'm gonna do it without it being poked so that you can see the difference once these are all done of what the difference is with the blueberries if they're not poked versus if they are. All right, I wanna give you some perspective on the tray loads, because this is 2 pounds of blueberries that are poked, and then this is 3 pounds of blueberries that are poked. So it's a little bit taller, as you can see, and definitely has more of a layer to it. We're gonna see how both of these dry and what the difference is in consistency is of the dry when they're more overloaded versus when they are just a more single layer, like 2 pounds versus 3 pounds. So I have a Harvest Right large freeze dryer, and I don't change any of the default settings that come with it for fruit specifically. I keep everything the same except for maybe the final dry time. You can change that however long you want it to be extra dry. Usually when it's on that final dry process, I'm right by the machine, and if I want more time, I'll add it. So in the freeze dryer that we're gonna do for this cycle is 12 pounds of blueberries. We've also got a couple of trays that don't have any poking to it of the skin, so we're going to see how that does. And then we've got a tray that has 3 pounds on it versus 2 pounds. So a lot of fun stuff to kind of see how it all turns out. We'll wait for this cycle to get done, and then we'll see how it all turned out. All right, blueberries are done. So with that 12 pounds of blueberries, it took around 47 hours. Now I'm warming the trays up just so it can get a little bit more warmer. I just wasn't able to get it here earlier in the day, so we're just going to warm up the trays and then we'll take a look at the blueberries. Blueberries are done. They're done freeze drying, and so what I'm going to show you is the various different trays. Now, if you recall, we did some with the roller berry where we poked the skin. We wanted to release the moisture out of the berry, and then we also did a couple trays with different pounds. So we did one tray with 2 pounds, one tray with 3. So let's take a look at those trays. All right, everybody, I just took 2 trays out of the freeze dryer. One tray is poked. That's the one that's poked that we did with the roller berry, and then this one is not. And as you can see, quite a big difference. So this is the tray that we didn't poke the skin. And remember, the reason we were poking the skin is because there's moisture inside these blueberries, obviously. And when they have a skin, or most berries that have a skin, basically there's no way for that moisture to release. So unlike other fruits, there is a way for that water to release. But with blueberries, there's a skin. So again, this is the tray that, as you can see, it just has this red, and it actually like crushes. You see all that, how it's crushing with just my finger? It's just really poor quality in terms of the overall product. Now take a look at this tray. Now this is the tray that we poked. As you can see, there's barely any type of juices that were released, maybe 1 or 2 from ones we just didn't get enough poking on. This blueberry doesn't really crush at all. And even if it does, it still stays intact and you get that really crispy crunch. Now, the reason you're hearing that popping is because I just came out of the freeze dryer. So again, here's the 2 trays. This tray that has them poked, you really get a really nice blueberry. Okay, so now what I'm showing you is the 2 trays that were poked, but one of them had 3 pounds. That's this one right here. It's a little bit overloaded. And then this one has just 2 pounds of blueberries that are poked with the roller berry. And as we can see with this 3-pound one, let's dig down into the kind of the middle and see if it's dry. Yep, it's good product. Hey, I wanted to show you one more tray. This is a tray that we didn't poke, and I wanted to show you, just look at how some of these blueberries turned out. Shriveled up and things, it's just very inconsistent, still has some moisture in it. Also, the blueberries that are shriveled up that you see have moisture in them, so if you just throw them in a bag or throw them in your bucket for storage, it's really going to spoil all your freeze-dried blueberries that were already dried. Okay, so if you're wondering what blueberries taste like freeze-dried, a freeze-dried blueberry, when it's poked and it's done perfectly, it's super crunchy. Over the past 3 years of doing freeze drying, I feel like freeze drying for fruit and other types of things, even candy, the flavor for certain things just hits more quickly than others, which I really like. All right, so one thing about freeze drying that you should definitely know about is you're gonna wanna store your freeze dried fruit. And what I use for kind of temporary storage until I'm ready to bag it is I use a 5-gallon bucket that has a Gamma Seal lid on it, which is kind of an airtight type of lid. So I'm gonna show you that, and then we're gonna put the berries that I poked in there, and we're gonna kind of probably discard the ones that I didn't poke, or kind of use them in maybe some other ways. All right, so here's the 5-gallon bucket, and this is what they call the Gamma Seal lid. I've got a link in the description of this video if you want to buy it off of Amazon. But it has this rubber gasket, as you can see here, and that's what creates that seal. And then it has a really good amount of spin to it, and then you just tighten it up. And what I usually do is I put some desiccant packets down here to just absorb any type of moisture or anything. I'm not too concerned with air at this point because it's just so short term right now of using the bucket. So I'm going to dump the blueberries in here that I poked with the roller berry. And I already had some blueberries in there, which is totally fine. I did actually have a big wholesale order for blueberries this past Christmas. Usually my bags that I put together, I have a net weight of 1.2 ounces of blueberries that I sell. And I was able to get about 60 bags if I filled this up to the top. 60 bags of blueberries at 1.2 net ounces. Then we're just gonna seal it back up. All right, and then we're done. Hey, it was a blast doing freeze-dried blueberries. I hope the roller berry and poking the skin of the blueberries made sense for you. Remember, we just want to poke them for purely to release the moisture out of the blueberries, because the skin provides that kind of compact pressure that's not going to give you the best crunch and the most high quality product. And that's what it's really all about when it comes to freeze drying. If you want to purchase the roller berry, go ahead and go to frozenright.com. Let them know that David from the Freeze Dried Business channel sent you. Also, you can subscribe to this channel or like this video if it was helpful for your business. Hey, have a great day and make an impact to your community using your business. We'll see you next time. This is the beginner's guide to how to freeze dry tropical fruit. We're going to cover everything from the tools that you need to cut all the different fruit that we're going to cover in this video, as well as freeze drying tools and equipment that'll make your life a lot easier to prepare fruit and sell it in your freeze drying business. Before we prepare the fruits that are in front of me, I just want to encourage you to subscribe to this channel if you're interested in freeze drying. This is a unique channel where we talk about things not only revolving around freeze drying, but freeze drying as a business. So if you're interested in using your freeze dryer to make some side income or grow it to a full-time business, these are the types of videos that I'm going to be putting out on this channel. So make sure you subscribe, hit the bell notification as well, because that'll actually trigger different notifications for when a new video comes out, just like this one. One thing I love about the freeze drying industry is that there's so many different things to try. Now there's Facebook groups, there's my videos, there's other people's videos on YouTube that you can watch, but I wanted to cover 5 different tropical fruits that, one, I've been trying to do in my freeze dried business, but I also wanted to see how it freeze dried because I haven't done these in the past. Now I did a video recently on other types of fruits that you can check out in the video card above or at the end of this video. I've always got also links to previous videos in the video description that you can check out. I've also got some new freeze drying equipment from freezedryingsupplies.com. If you haven't checked them out, I'm going to be a new affiliate for them, and that just means that I'm going to be promoting their products a little bit more because I see a lot of value in what they're putting together, and they're American made. Now maybe you're familiar with the fruits that are in front of me, but if you're not, this is what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be doing 5 different types of fruits because I've got a large Harvest Right freeze dryer, and so we're going to put each fruit on one tray. This fruit right here, papaya. Now, I don't typically eat papayas, but I know it's very valuable in antioxidants. We're also going to cover how to freeze dry dragon fruit. It's actually really expensive in an area like where I am, which is in Idaho. So these cost about $3 each. So we'll freeze dry these because it is a tropical fruit. I've also got kiwis. My sons love kiwis, so we're going to peel these and prepare them on the freeze dryer trays. We're also got mangoes. I've got a special tool that I bought off of Amazon to peel these and get the fruit out of here. And then we've of course got pineapple. Now, why is tropical fruit important for you in your freeze drying business? Well, it adds a lot of variety to things that other people maybe aren't doing. Freeze drying fruit takes a long time to freeze dry. It typically takes 36 to 48 hours to do a full cycle of 10 to 16 pounds in your large Harvest Right freeze dryer. If you've got a medium, same type of thing. So it takes a lot longer than candy, but the benefit is that fruit retains 94% of its nutritional value after freeze drying. That's because of the sublimation process that the freeze dryer is doing for you. So it's taking all the water out of the fruit, but it's through the vacuum process. It's kind of extracting water as a vapor, and then it's kind of drying it, and then ever so slightly kind of going back and forth. So you're left with kind of basically the same look and feel of the fruit, but the value's still there because it's not draining it all of its nutrients like a dehydrator would. Before we start cutting the fruit, we will be talking about the freeze dryer settings that I'm going to be putting into my Harvest Right freeze dryer towards the end of this video, so make sure you stay tuned. Also right now, hit that like button if you love freeze drying and you love seeing freeze drying different types of fruits. Thanks a lot. Let's get to the cutting. Starting out with pineapple, this is what we use for coring the pineapple. It is a pineapple core. It's $12-15. It's on Amazon. You can find a link in the video description below. Now moving on to mangoes, I've got a particular tool for taking the pit out of a mango. It's not a normal pit that you're used to seeing in like cherries and peaches, things like that. No, the mango pit is flat. So you actually have to peel the fresh fruit around the pit before you do that. And one of the tools that you can use is this mango depitter slicer type thing. This is not very expensive at all either. It's on Amazon. Go to the video description. I've got a link there. And you're simply gonna press down and it goes right down the middle of the mango. and we'll slice through that, and I'll share with you once we prepare the mango how that happens. And the last three remaining fruit, for kiwi, papaya, and dragon fruit, we're simply just gonna use a knife. I use these all the time around our kitchen. It's just the Cuisart type of knife set, has different sizes. If you don't have a knife set, or if you wanna go buy a really nice one from Cutco, something like that, I haven't had any problems with these. And my wife and I have been married for 10 years, got these for our wedding, so it's lasted a long time. You can sharpen these, you can do whatever, but get a good set of knives when you're preparing fruit. I've also got this Cutco smaller type of knife. I love these for strawberries, smaller types of fruits. I'm gonna use them on the kiwis. So if you don't have a sharp knife and you don't have a Cutco knife, this is really nice to have. And I've got some links in the video description below to Amazon and other links so that you can buy these knives directly. And if you have Amazon Prime, you're gonna get these in about a day or two. So very quickly to be able to get things that you need for your freeze drying business. Hey, if you're looking for a freeze dryer, there's a couple of brands that I recommend. I personally own Harvest Right. I've owned several different large freeze dryers and I still own them today. Highly recommended. And if you're gonna start a freeze drying business, I'd recommend the XL freeze dryer, as well as looking at the HRC 100, which can do up to 100 pounds of product. That one I would prefer if you have 4 or 5 XLs in your business and you're really looking at trying to decide what your next purchase is gonna be. That HRC 100 might be a benefit. And I'll include a link in the video description to harvestrightcommercial.com. I do own Stay Fresh. I own the original medium in between kind of the large Harvest Right freeze dryer for Stay Fresh. It's been a beast of a machine. I love that machine, and I use it for my freeze drying business too. I'd recommend Stay Fresh. I've got a link to purchase that in the video description as well. Now I have talked to the owners of Blue Alpine. Seems like a great freeze dryer. They're built locally here in Idaho, out in Idaho Falls, and they are trying to be the first kind of US made freeze dryer. Now they do buy some components, I believe, out of the country, but they assemble it and make it all in Idaho, which is pretty awesome. So if you want to check those 3 freeze dryers out, hit the video description and you'll see all the links to those. Now what we're going to do with the pineapple again is we're going to take that pineapple core, right, little area that has the jagged edges, we're going to put that right on top where we see the core, push down, and then we're simply going to turn this core. This is how easy it is. It doesn't take a whole lot of strength to do. Once you start hearing it kind of like cutting in a non-soft, rougher way, that's when you know it's down at the very bottom and it pulls out the entire pineapple. We're simply going to press down on our slicer and get all of our nice little pieces. Now here's my Harvest Right large freeze dryer tray, and what I've got is some parchment paper that I got from freezedryingsupplies.com. Now you can get parchment paper wherever. I do like supporting Brian over there. He's got a bunch of different freeze drying supplies, and I've also got some freeze drying lids right behind me that I'm going to share with you that we're going to stack the trays on top of, and then we're going to pre-freeze before we put it in the freeze dryer, all this fruit. So the parchment paper helps with just one, cleanliness. You don't have as much residue on the actual tray, which makes cleaning up easier, but also it does come off of the parchment paper easily once it's actually done with the freeze drying process. I'm going to arrange the pineapple where there's no stacking of slices. The reason I'm going to do that is because it's just going to be easier for the freeze dryer sensors. Everything is going to be able to sense that there's only a single layer and there's not too much product. I don't consider myself an expert in freeze drying, but I have done a lot of experimenting that I kind of have figured out what I'm failing at and what has worked best. We're going to go over to my little tray area for my home and find these tray stackers. As you can see, this fits exactly on the large tray. It snaps on each end. And what's fortunate about this is it already has the tray stackers for another tray. Now this right here is not something that you would put in your freeze dryer. This is purely just to not have any freezer burn or not have anything kind of exposing the fruit when you're actually pre-freezing your fruit. So we're gonna grab another Harvest Right large freeze dryer tray. It snaps there, and then we're gonna put another parchment paper right on top of here, and start doing another type of fruit. Now, he makes all different sizes of these tray lids and parchment paper. So no matter what size you have, even if you have a Stay Fresh machine, Blue Alpine, the Cube, he's building all these different things for those different types of freeze dryers. So take a look. All right, so let's get started with the mango. So again, this detaches, this is the base, and then you have the thing that's actually going to depit the mango. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put the mango like this, right inside the center, and we simply slide down. The riper the mango is, obviously the more smooth it is going to go down. But as you can see, here's the flat area of where the pit is. But we'll toss that aside for now. And what you're left with this mango, 2 fresh pieces of fruit, which is awesome, okay? And just cut these very thin. Again, the reason you're cutting them thin is the length of time that freeze dryer, because it has sensors, right? It's sensing what type of moisture content is in this fruit. It could take a long time if you don't cut these thin. But again, let's depit it. See how quickly that was? What I'm doing is I'm taking this just like I would like an orange or an apple, and just taking the skin off, because I want to do 2 different types of methods with the mango, because I really just don't do this very much. I'm going to cut these thin again. This half I'm cutting in thin slices like this. The next half I'm gonna cut in kind of bigger chunks, maybe like cubes. See that right there? So we've got that all on this tray right here. So that is the mango. Hey, if you're loving the video right now about how to freeze dry tropical fruit, would you give this video a thumbs up right now? It's just gonna really help the algorithm on YouTube. YouTube loves to see people engaging through comments and likes, things like that. So if you can do that for me, that'd be great. This video will reach more and more people who wanna freeze dry tropical fruits just like this. All right, let's get started with dragon fruit. I've never done this before, but I've watched a couple videos on how to actually peel the dragon fruit apart, that type of thing. Also, I interviewed a freeze dryer entrepreneur down in Panama. His name's Eric, and he runs the YouTube channel called 2 Guys in a Cooler. If you want to check out that interview with him, he is awesome. He's got a lot of great videos as well. That video can be found in the thumbnail as well as up above here in the card if you want to check out that video. But he recommended doing dragon fruit, and down there in Panama, they've got all different types, which I didn't even know that. And what I read online is that you're simply going to cut off the ends. Now, if you've done this before, I'm sorry if I'm doing it incorrectly, but I know that they said to cut off the ends of the dragon fruit. Now you're just basically going to peel back this skin of the dragon fruit and expose the fruit part. So it kind of looks like a kiwi, but it's white. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it just into thin slices. Now for the second one, I might just cut them up into cubes. So isn't this great? This is great. What I love about freeze drying is I'm literally trying all different types of stuff. And the reason you freeze dry fruit is, one, for long-term storage. Depending on what type of packaging you're going to use, you can store freeze-dried anything for a long period of time. Most websites say 25 years. I don't know of anybody that freeze-dried something in 1999 as of this video and is eating it today. So I don't really know how accurate that 25 years is, but we do know that there is packaging that, the military uses that has MREs and things that can store for a very long time. In fact, people are still opening those types of things from the World War II and things like that. Good, I'm actually gonna take a taste of this dragon fruit. Kind of a kiwi, a little bit of a crunch too. That's delicious. Hey, if you're interested in freeze drying or you're interested in any of the equipment that I used in today's video so far, you can check out freezedryingsupplies.com. I've got it up here in the video as well as in the video description. Now, I'm an affiliate of them, so you will be kicking back a little bit back to me for this video. That type of kickback from Freeze Drying Supplies really will help me put out more and more videos and time into this channel so that I can expose you to more and more about freeze drying entrepreneurship, and the whole industry as a whole. I've got a lot of great content coming up. So If you're interested, go to freezedryingsupplies.com and you'll check out all different types of supplies and accessories that you can do to improve your freeze drying and freeze drying business. Now let's get back to the next couple fruits. All right, let's get started with the papaya. Now, I've never done this before, so this is gonna be my first time as well. So you're gonna see my failures in here or my successes. But what I did see online is that you're gonna basically peel the skin off of the papaya, leaving and exposing the fruit, which should be kind of a pinkish color. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut it right in half, and that will expose the seeds inside here. There's seeds in papaya. Again, this is my first time, so I'm just gonna kind of see how thick I'm doing it, and I'm gonna go right along the edge of here and just keep cutting the skin off of the papaya. I don't know if any of you watch ASMR videos, but this kind of stuff would give me the tingles a little bit. Just seeing someone slice all of this, it's just kind of very soothing to listen to and see. I know I'm going kind of slow, but this is just kind of fun to see these slices. All right, so now we've got the skin all off. We're gonna toss the skin aside, and we're gonna do exactly what most fruit requires, which we're gonna cut the ends off. I'm gonna cut right down the half. This is what I watched, and if you're wanting to rewatch this, see how there's seeds inside here? This is pretty cool. We're gonna scoop out all of these seeds, okay? I'm gonna be careful not to scoop out too much of the fruit. I'm sure there's some nutritional value in the seeds too, so it wouldn't hurt to actually freeze dry maybe papaya seeds. So I'm gonna cut it into these kind of slices here. I'm gonna try to get the same amount of length. I'm actually not really a cook, but I'm amazed right now at the thickness and the accuracy that I'm doing right now. As you can see, I'm not really trying to be super specific here. I'm just gonna cut them up into smaller pieces, and we've got our thicker, kind of longer pieces as well. Again, if you're interested in freeze drying, if you like freeze drying as a business and you're interested in this channel and following me more, make sure you check out the next couple videos after we get done with the kiwis, and I'll show you the blueprint to freeze drying other types of fruits like blueberries, strawberries, things like that. And also there's a ton of other videos that you can find. Did you know that there's over 50,000 tons of kiwis produced every year in the United States? That's a lot. We also import them in the United States from other countries, but kiwis are great. This is the last fruit that we're gonna do. I just like cutting off the ends, and then I kind of just carefully cut the outside of the skin. You don't have to do this. You can use a spoon. I'm gonna cut these in like kind of the thinner slices so we have kind of a full kiwi. So what we're gonna do here instead is I'm gonna cut it kind of at the top, and now we're gonna scoop out the kiwi from the skin. The problem with this though is I feel like you lose some of the fruit in here, see? So that's just kind of the pros and cons of this. Plus, it's super juicy. See all the juice coming out of this? Anyway, this is just not gonna turn out good. I don't like this method too much. Hit that like button. I'd really love the support. That way I kind of gauge whether this is something everyone is interested in. If you've got a faster method of cutting kiwis, I'd love to hear about it. That's what the comments in YouTube is all about, is I read every single one of those. I try to respond as quickly as I can because I want to engage with all of you. All of us are in this in freeze drying. No matter where you're just starting out, experimenting with candy, fruit, ice cream, other types of products, all of us are in this together, and this is just the beginning of the freeze-dried business industry, because it used to be all pharmaceutical. It all used to be for the big boys and companies. Now we can all make our own living doing this. And don't worry about saturation. If you're watching this long into the kiwis, this is my 2 cents about everyone talking about, oh, the market's saturated and candy, everything like that. Well, if you look up the definition of saturation, that means that you can basically no longer like fill, and there's no candy to be made ever again. Like everyone's eaten all of the candy possible, which isn't true. There's so many different other avenues. So don't worry about that. Keep doing what you're doing. And there is so much runway for a freeze-dried business coming up in the coming years. And I'm proof of that. I'm still doing it after 4 years. I've still got this channel. It's all going to be dedicated to highlighting what's possible. Now we've got all the trays. We're going to use this final tray stacker lid. Snap it shut. The freeze dryer settings for this fruit I'm going to do is the default settings for pretty much all freeze dryer brands, which normally come at a default at 120 or 125 degrees. That's what I'm going to run these at, but I'm going to make sure that the final dry is at least 6 to 8 hours long. You can do it as long as you want to, but that's what I'm going to start these out at. And go to the next couple videos and the thumbnails coming up next and watch more videos about freeze drying, especially my blueprint to freeze drying other types of fruits as well. Check that video out and I'll see you there. A freeze dryer like the one next to me removes water activity and moisture from various different foods. I've got several different fruits that I'm going to show you what the net weight is after freeze drying. Let's get started. The fruits that we're going to do today to see gross versus net weight is we're going to do pineapple, we're going to do raspberries, strawberries, blueberries, and apples. All right, here are all the tools that I use to prepare fruit. These have really helped me be more efficient in my business and get these fruits prepared very quickly and easily. Now, if you're interested in purchasing any of these, I've got links in the video description of this video that link directly to Amazon. They are affiliate links, so I do get a small commission. And for the very small amount that Amazon does give me in commission, I use it directly to buy different tools and things that I'm seeing that would be beneficial for all of you to see me use for this freeze drying channel. So I'd appreciate any type of purchases that go through those links. All right, so what we've got here is I've got a knife sharpener. This is an antique sharpener. I don't think you're gonna find that on the Amazon links, but I do have one that's more modern on there. This is a egg slicer that I use for strawberries to slice into different pieces. Now this is an apple core, so this goes directly into the core, which I'll show you of the pineapple. And then after you get it cored, you slice this down and it gets you really nice bite-sized pieces with this piece. I got a really great knife, and then I've also got, of course, the roller berry, which I did a video on, and this pokes the skin of blueberries so that the moisture releases and you get a really nice crispy blueberry, and it drops the blueberries with this little groove right here. Also, I've got this apple slicer. Now, this is actually more of a potato slicer, believe it or not, for fries. But I use it for apples, and you put it in here, then you slide this lever, and it creates all these different nice little small bite-sized fry slices for apples. All right, so let's get started with blueberries. So what I've got is a scale here that will measure the gross and net weight, but I wanted to make sure I showed you what I'm kind of doing within this video. So for blueberries here that I've already washed, what I did is I really looked for a tray's worth in the large freeze dryer worth of fruit. And I made sure that I did a pound of every type of fruit or more. And so this is a carton of blueberries. It's 6 ounces gross starting out, and I did 3 of those. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn on the scale. Now I'm going to use this bowl, and then I'm going to tear it off so that it gets to 0, and then we're going to pour the blueberries into this bowl. For the blueberries, it's 1 pound and 3 ounces, so that's what we'll start with the blueberries. Now it's time to use the roller berry and get the blueberries poked. Again, I use a Harvest Right tray and silicone mat to line these up, and if you'd like to buy Harvest Right mats, you can obviously go to their website. I've got a link in the description, and just transfer the blueberries over to the freezer paper. You want to have the shiny side up, and then we just keep doing the blueberries. This is 18 ounces of blueberries poked and all with the roller berry. I'm going to put this into the freezer, so we'll pre-freeze it, and then we'll get into the freeze dryer and see what the net weight is of 18 ounces of blueberries. All right, the blueberries are done. Take a look at this. This is what your freeze-dried blueberries should look like when you poke the skin. It shouldn't look like this one. This one wasn't poked. As you can see, it kind of exploded. The rest of them did not. So this is a good solid batch of blueberries. Now, if you recall what we did with the blueberries, this gross weight was about 18 ounces. We did 3 packs of 6 ounces of the blueberries. Let's see how much. the blueberries get for net weight. All right, so let's take a look at the results. After we put in 18 ounces of blueberries starting out, we got, after freeze drying, 2.3 net ounces of freeze-dried blueberries. All right, next up is raspberries. This is another 6-ounce carton, and I put 3 raspberries. I've already washed all of these raspberries, so we're gonna transfer it to this bowl, let it zero out. Then let's put the raspberries on there. All right, so what we've got here for gross weight for the raspberries, just a little bit over a pound. So we've got pound and roughly maybe 2 to 3 ounces of raspberries. So we'll put that onto the baking sheet and then put it in the freezer. All right, so here's a pound of raspberries. We'll put this into the freezer, let it pre-freeze, and then we'll put it into the freeze dryer. This is what freeze-dried raspberries looks like. Becomes super crunchy. I'll smash one of these. Just super airy. It's very tart, but very delicious. Great for smoothies, yogurts. That's how I would market it. And just excellent, excellent fruit to freeze dry. We're gonna put them into the bowl. And let's see what it came out to. All right, so how much did we get from 18 ounces of raspberries? 2.2 net ounces were produced from freeze drying raspberries. I do want to invite you to a couple of my other videos. There's a lot of other videos on how to do different candies, fruits, and I even do ice cream, so check that out. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, but also subscribe to the channel so that you can be notified of future videos and join us in this freeze drying community. Thanks. All right, so let's get started with strawberries now. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut off the stems of the strawberries that are already washed so that we can figure out the gross weight of that versus with the stems on. All right, now that the stems are off of the strawberries, we're gonna weigh the gross weight. That way we know where we started. I'm doing 2 pounds of strawberries out of these cartons. So there's one and then another one of these. All right, sweet. So we're starting off with 2 pounds of strawberries with the stems off, which is awesome. I'm gonna go ahead and slice these strawberries and then we'll put it on the baking sheet and put it in the freezer. Pounds of strawberries, all the gross weight. So we're gonna put this into the freezer and then we'll see what the net weight comes out. Okay, here we go with strawberries. These are freeze-dried strawberries. They should be very crispy and airy and look like this and just basically snap in half. These are awesome. This is probably one of my favorites. Okay, so what did we get for the strawberries? We got 3.4 net ounces from 2 pounds of strawberries, all sliced and all. All right, so one of my favorite fruits that's freeze-dried, but I don't do it as much as I should, is pineapple. I've got 2 pineapple. We'll core it using this corer, and then we'll put all those slices into a bowl and figure out the gross weight. So let's do that. So now we're ready to core the pineapple. This is a really ripe pineapple, as you can tell by the outside layer, but that's okay. I just wanted to get some pineapple for this video to kind of see how much we're gonna get. We're gonna use now this slicer, and this goes all the way down and gets you into like the little bite-sized pieces. 2 pineapples all sliced and cored. We've got 1 pound and almost 15 ounces. So we'll put this into the freezer. Freeze-dried pineapple is super delicious, man. The flavor is just fantastic. Now, sometimes you do need to freeze dry this a little bit longer. I've checked a lot of these and it should kind of sound like what you're hearing. It should sound like it's dry and just kind of crumbling up and breaking apart like this. All right, so what did we get from pineapple? We got 5 net ounces from 2 pounds of pineapple sliced and cored. Awesome. All right, last fruit on our list for this video is gonna be apples. I've got some Gala apples. This is about 2 pounds of apples. There's only 5 of them. Now, this is one of my favorite tools for prepping fruit other than the roller berry. This is a fry slicer that I found off of Amazon. This is fantastic. You put the apple into this apple core, and then you push this lever and it slices out the apple into these little pieces that look like fries. All right, so let's see how much this weighs as part of a gross once we've sliced them all. All right, so look what we've got here. We've got 1 pound and 12 ounces gross weight for all these apple slices. So we'll put them onto the baking sheet and then we'll put them into the freezer and we'll see what happens after we freeze dry. All right, freeze-dried apples are out. They're just awesome. They look very snacky. That's why I like doing that potato slicer. Big reveal, how much did we get from 5 gala apples? We got 4.3 net ounces of freeze-dried apple fry. Hey, I wanted to address a couple questions that usually come up in my videos, which is, if you're starting out doing a freeze-dried business or you're currently doing one of the things you're trying to evaluate is what the price is going to be on your packages based on various sizes, but also, how much weight or how much product do you put in there. So to answer that question, I really didn't make it too complicated on myself when I first started out, and even to this day. I went online, I did some Google searches, I went on to Etsy, and I looked to see what other freeze-drying companies were pricing their products at and the net weight. And what I found to be more consistent online and from other freeze-dried companies, including large companies like the brands that you see at Target and Trader Joe's freeze-drying fruit, generally about 1 net ounce of freeze-dried fruit is going to run about $6 to $7. I add probably $2 to $3 for my end because I'm a local small business. It's a little bit more premium. I'm not mass producing it. I'm more pricing it as a local premium freeze-dried fruit product. So that's what I would suggest you doing, is kind of looking at about an ounce of product and then marking it up to probably about $9 to $10 per ounce. You need to evaluate, how much labor you're putting into prepping all that fruit. As you saw earlier in this video, it did take a lot of time to prep and slice and do different types of fruit. Maybe raspberries was one of those that didn't take that much time, but you really do need to take into account the time and labor that you're putting into that. And also, you're not adding any preservatives or sugars like some of the other companies might be doing. So to recap, the answer is those larger companies that are mass producing freeze-dried fruit, they are pricing about 1 net ounce of fruit for about $6 to $7. So for the smaller business freeze-dried companies, I would recommend pricing that up about $2 to $3 more. I'm still selling all the fruit that I put out there to my customers and in retail stores. It still seems to be demanding that type of price. Hey, that was awesome figuring out the gross and net weight of all these different fruits. I think this is really helpful just for you to evaluate and figure out what you can forecast for all the different cycles based on how many pounds you need to buy at the store and then how many you're going to actually get out of freeze drying in that cycle, because it's all about just knowing how quickly you can get stuff freeze dried, but also how much bags you can get so that you can get out there and sell. So I hope this video was helpful. Make sure you subscribe to this channel and join us in the freeze drying community. Thanks again for watching, and do something great for your community for freeze drying as a business. See ya.